Okay. I'd like to continue. My partner never got a chance to read the harm, so I'd like to present those now. The questioning of Muslim people creates a prevailing atmosphere of Islamophobia. According to Muhit Bilisi, an assistant sociology professor at John Jay College, said, at the airport, those who have so far in the city at the ticket counter and so on been treated equally suddenly become suspect. They suddenly feel their protected status begin to evaporate. Even those Muslims who do not consider themselves particularly profiled or discriminated against in everyday life suddenly begin to feel uneasy. Strict search and other security rites of passage through the border show them the hard edge of the nation. Muslim otherness is revealed in the most conspicuous way. The fear a Muslim inspires is associated with the unpredictability of this behavior. All these questions that airport authorities ask citizens to consider transform the Muslim passenger in the eyes of his fellow travelers into a source of unpredictability and danger. People are almost thankful for the Muslim passenger for not doing what they feared he might. Flying while Muslim thus becomes an extremely public event. A crucial point here is that the airport is where Muslim experience and American mainstream experience meet. This surveillance creates conditions for psychological and physical violence against brown people. According to Huss from News Today, imagine it is 5 a.m. and you've landed in New York after a 12-hour overseas flight. Standing in line for U.S. citizens, you wait as a border agent asks passengers ahead a few cursory questions, then waves them through. Your family is instead ushered into a separate room for more than an hour of searching and questioning. This is the welcome that Hassan Shibli, traveling with his wife and infant son, are greeted with. Are you part of an Islamic tribe? Have you ever studied Islam full time? How many gods do you believe in? How many prophets do you believe in? The agents at New York's JFK airport asked, according to Shibli, 24, a Syrian-born Muslim American. He said the agent searched his luggage, pulling out the Quran and handheld digital prayer counter. At the end, I guess, the agent was trying to be nice. He said, sorry, I hope you understand we have to make sure nothing gets blown up. Muslim American travelers say they are still paying the price for terror attacks carried out in the name of their religion. At airports, ports, and landing crossings, many contend that they are repeatedly singled out for special screenings and intrusive questioning about their religious beliefs. Others say they have been marooned overseas, barred from flights to the United States. Now, solvency. The spot's ambiguous nature is what allows racial profiling. Only removing the program solves. According to the AAI Arab American Institute, in 2007, the TSA introduced a program called Screening Passengers by Observation Techniques, or SPOT, based on the subjective discriminatory screening process first used by the Israeli government. The program uses behavior detection officers to identify passengers who behave suspiciously in some manner, then ask them more questions or subject them to increased physical security checks. The problem with any program that increases the scrutiny of an American citizen runs the risk of selecting individuals discriminatorily, especially in a program like SPOT, where the officer who makes the initial inspection also decides who will be inspected. This problem is exacerbated when the class singled out is not designated by any real objective criteria. I'd like to read off of the SPOT referral report. This is the report that the officers use when detaining someone. First, they look at a few stress factors. That includes arriving late for a flight, avoiding eye contact with the security personnel, exaggerated yawning as the individual approaches the screening process, excessive fidgeting, clock watching, head turning, shuffling of feet, and leg shaking, excessive perspiration inconsistent with the environment, face pale from recent shaving of beard, facial flushing when undergoing screening, faster eye blink rate when individual requests to submit to screening procedures, increased breathing rate or panting, obvious Adam's apple jump when requested to submit to screening procedures, protruding or beating neck arteries, repetitive touching of face, rubbing or wringing of hands, strong body odor, sweaty palms, trembling, whistling at the individual as the individual approaches the screening process. Also, they look at a few fear factors, including that the bag appears to be heavier than expected, bulges in clothing, powerful grip of a bag and or hand inside the bag, rigid posture, minimal body movement, shows unusual interest in security officers and their work. Then they also look at deception factors, including appears to be confused or disoriented, asks the BDO security related question, appears to be in disguise, does not respond to authoritative commands, maintains covert ties with others, repeatedly pats upper body with hands. Now to continue, officers are supposed to protect us or hindering our safety. By removing the program, we can prevent the humiliation of our citizens and distraction of our officers. Michael Schmidt, New York Times. More than 30 federal officers say the operation has become a magnet for racial profiling, targeting not only Middle Easterners, but also blacks, Hispanics, and other minorities. Hispanics traveling to Miami, for instance, or blacks wearing baseball caps backwards are much more likely to be stopped, searched, and questioned for suspicious behavior. The behavior detection program is no longer a behavior-based program, but it is a racial profiling program. Psychologists and educational consultants, according to psychologists and educational consultants. In a formal complaint he filed with the agency, he was pulled out of line and detained for 29 minutes as agents thumbed through his checkbook and examined his client's clinical notes, his cell phone, and other belongings. The officers gave him no explanation, but Dr. Boatner, who was black, said the reason he was stopped was his race and appearance. He was wearing sweatpants, a white t-shirt, and high-top sneakers. He said he felt humiliated. He had never been subjected to anything like that. There is no place for racial profiling in any security program, Mr. Mackey says. It is illegal and not effective. Just to clarify, the SPOT program is the screening of passengers by observation techniques, and it is a behavior observation and analysis program designed to provide Transportation Security Administration, which is the TSA, behavior detection officers with a means of identifying persons who pose or may pose potential transportation security risks by focusing on behavior indicative of high levels of stress, fear, or deception. As my partner recently said, scientists have said that there's really no behavior that is directly associated with lying. So that shows how unreliable the SPOT program is. The effectiveness of the SPOT program. Reviews of SPOT have shown that only 1% of the 30,000 people stopped every year are ever arrested. And the arrests are for the things like drug possession or traveling with undeclared items, never for terrorism. Also, 21 of 25 TSA behavior detection officers interviewed at 4 airports acknowledged that some behavioral indicators are subjective. The GAO report said, USAtoday.com, Bart Jansen, November 13th, 2013. Also, my last piece was,
And that's time.
Are you aware that the FBI has a top most wanted list? Have you heard of that?
yes,
And this is a list of potential or successful terrorists, correct?
correct.
And terrorist attacks have been carried out by planes, right? For example, 9/11 was possible because of an airplane. Is that correct?
Yes,
And it's completely legal to search a person who is boarding an airplane, correct?
correct. But the
So
issue
yes,
is,
it's completely legal?
yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Prep time negative team.
Yes.
Yes, please.